So today I'm going to talk around motivation again, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. So last time I spoke around motivation either as a toward or away, and that we're predominantly biased towards away motivation or avoiding things that are uncomfortable, things that we don't want to get involved in or any sort of adversity. So today I'm going to talk a little bit around our identity and how that influences our motivation. So I'll use myself as an example. So when I was a young soldier, I had a dream to get into special operations. So once I got into special operations, it was easy for me to then see myself as an operator, or to take on the identity of what I thought was a good operator or would be the type of person that would function within that organisation, would have strong belonging, would work well within those teams. So as soon as I take on that identity, I start to believe in a lot of the things that are associated with what I perceive to be important in that environment, behaviours that I think are important to align myself with the identity of the people within that environment. A lot of the beliefs that I think are in that environment, I take on as part of my identity. I take on a lot of the emotions, and I get upset, I get frustrated about a lot of the things or anything that I feel that I'm not doing that is aligned to that identity. So I start to lose a little bit of around my values, who I am. It changes the way I tell stories to myself about what's going on, because now my stories are related to that identity or becoming the best I can at what I think is the person that I need to be, or who I think the person is that I need to be within that environment. So the identity that I see myself as changes my motivation. So now I'm motivated away from any discomfort that's going to make me believe or perceive that I'm not fulfilling that identity, or I'm not belonging in that role, or I'm not functioning or a part of that environment, or I'm not good enough to be in that environment with the identity that I see myself as. So if I'm taking on that identity, then most of my pain is around the perception of who I am and who I need to be, and any gaps or any discrepancies between that belief or that perception. So purely through identifying through that, I'm creating a lot of pain, because anywhere in that where the values of that role conflict with my personal values, there's going to be pain. So I've introduced a lot of areas around just seeing myself as something that I'm probably not, is opening myself up for a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, a lot of anguish, because if I'm not living up to that, then I don't feel that I'm worthy to be there, and I've created a lot of negative emotional states around myself, and then I'm going to own those emotions, and they're going to change the way I tell myself about the story of what's going on. And then another important consideration is, once I've fixated myself or I've anchored myself to that identity within that role, once I leave, none of those constructs still exist. Everything that was within that environment is gone. So now all my behaviours, all my beliefs, all my emotions, everything that I was working towards is stuck in something that I'm no longer doing. So now I have to try and change my identity or change who I am. And if there's a big gap between who I thought I was, or who I think I am, and what I thought I was, then that's going to create more pain, it's going to create more issues as I try and transition out of that. So rather than having taken on that identity, I was fortunate enough where I kind of didn't really buy into it that much. For me, it was more of just an exciting job, and I approached it with a lot of curiosity about what I could bring to that role, what I could do, how good I could get, the things that I could provide within that or value add, as opposed to me being a part of that or being or me identifying myself within that role. So as I've transitioned out, it hasn't really been that painful an issue to transition out and re-identify, because I've kind of stuck to my own values. I've stuck to having a curiosity about certain things, and I was fascinated by what it would take, or what I'd have to do, or what I would have to confront within that role. So I approached it with a lot more curiosity and fascination around who I could become, what challenges I could overcome, sort of what I would have to do to reach my peak potential to operate within an environment that required people that were operating at such high levels. So just through that, I've maintained most of my values. And then as I've transitioned out, I've maintained a curiosity around who I can grow from now. So we need to understand that if we're taking on an identity that's not quite aligned to our values, or it's not really aligned to who we are, then we take on all those beliefs, we take on those behaviours, we take on those emotions, and we take on all the constructs and everything that we perceive about that environment as part of us. And that changes the way we tell our own story about what's going on, who we are, how we belong in there, and whether we're worth it when it comes to being involved in those environments. So if we can take on less of an identity around those things, approach things with more of a curiosity, approach things around our values with a fascination about what we can do, as opposed to being deep-seated in belonging within those environments and having fixed identities in there, then we're going to create less issues around the way we see ourselves and the way we tell the story as we move forward. So I hope that kind of helps you understand a little bit around identity. Identity is obviously a very complex, a very sort of large-scale topic, but just a little bit of a different way of thinking about the identity that you see yourself as and how you're playing out your role within what you're doing, and whether that's really who you are and who you want to be. So I hope that kind of helps, something to think about, and I look forward to next time.